Robert Cardillo here from the Hurt Handbook, and on this podcast today we have a very special guest. He just won the Combat FC Bantamweight title at Combat FC 7 with a beautiful first round knockout over John Douma. Hide your mom because her favorite fighter is here with us today. We got Ashiek Ajim on the pod, and the first thing I want to ask you is your mom's favorite fighter. Where did that nickname come from?
So that was the thing about my nickname. Like, we switch it up for every fight, so just to have fun with it. So that was just a comment. So I put a post out saying if anyone has any like nickname suggestions, and someone commented your mom's favorite fighter, and I was like, I like that one, even though it didn't get the most votes or the most likes. I was like, I like that one, so I'm gonna go with that one for the fight.
Well, that's what matters the most, I guess, that you like it. But in the past, what would you say is your favorite nickname that you've kind of gotten or used?
Um, yeah, my favorite. They're more like not funny ones like that. Like I've come out to AAA before because those are like my initials, and I like I mean that sounds cool, you know, AAA. And I've had LaFreak because that one rhymes with like Ashiek LaFreak, and that the song, there was that song that goes like freak out, you know, that was like the walkout, and the name of the song is LaFreak, so that was like a good one. And then there's some funny ones, you know, like booty. My coach called me like booty freak just as a joke sometimes, and then a lot of people know me as that. I'm like, bro, but it's funny, you know. And then
No, yeah, I like that. I mean, it adds like a little bit of flair to the fight, and I feel like this Combat FC card that we just had honestly had a lot of that on it. You know, with yourself and even like Gerald Muse fighting Damian Nelson. His whole walkout was interesting. But to talk about Combat FC 7 a little bit, for those who don't know, like I said, you beat John Douma first round knockout. Your striking in that fight just looked absolutely incredible. Did you think that that was going to be as heavy of an advantage that it was going into the fight?
um, not exactly. Well, I did know going into it. Oh, by the way, this my sound's coming through clear, right? There's no music going on in the background. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I hear you perfectly. You're good.
Cool. Going into the fight, I knew I had better striking. Like, it was cleaner, better, like, technically. I knew even grappling wise, he was it was somewhat even grappling wise. I think he pushed the grappling a little bit more in his fights. But I knew he was tough. So going into the fight, I knew he was like a tough opponent. I've seen him been in like wars in his last fights. So I didn't think I would hurt him that early. But when I did hurt him, I was like, oh shit, I got to make sure I stay on him. But at the same time, like when I hurt him with the first shot, I was thinking, nah, he's gonna probably weather through this, and I gotta make sure like I don't run out of gas, like just team. That we had a short night, and I came out unscathed really from the match. But I did. Part of me feels bad because I think like I think Duma deserved better than that. You know, like a better showing than that. But again, like from my side, I'm glad it ended the way it did.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I wasn't shocked at like the result because obviously I thought either of you could win. You guys are both really good fighters, talented all around, but like just the nature of how that happened. Like I thought coming into the fight that you definitely had a striking advantage, but like to see you do it to Duma that quickly. And you could even see in the fight his chin is just incredible because some of those shots you were hitting him with were just perfect, clean, right on the chin, and he wasn't going down. Like what were you kind of thinking in those moments? Like, was it more so stay composed, like you were kind of saying, or just like, man, like how many shots do I have to hit this guy with?
Yeah, kind of a little bit of both. But when the fight started, so before I heard him, I landed a jab, and I noticed that it had like a little more impact than I thought it would. I was like, oh shoot, like that kind of stung him, and I thought like, okay, maybe my punches are gonna have more impact than I thought they would have, and then I ended up hurting him with that hook off of the break, and I was like, all right, now I just gotta stay on him, try to end this a little quicker than I thought it would.
Well,
You know what's funny? This is like more of a going into the fight when we were in the back. So we were warming up for the walkouts and stuff like that. And then right before I walked out, I was thinking in my head, because going into the fight, my game plan was use my range a little bit more, have him fall into some counters. Because I'm like the longer fighter, I'm a little more ranger than him. And I know he wants to push that grappling a bit. So in the back, like I was kind of talking to myself in my head. I was like, what if I just went out there and just started throwing bombs, just big shots, just fuck all the on this not even like a specific game plan for him, but just more so a style that I wanted to incorporate in future fights, just being a little more rangy, being on the outside a little more rather than pressuring guys and walking them down and try to hurt them with shots. But last minute I was like, maybe I should throw some bombs. I was like, nah, let me try to play a little more safer. But it ended up working out where I did catch it with something, it ended it quick. So that was nice.
Definitely some calculated chaos. I mean, the striking looked precise in there, that's for sure. It didn't look wild at all. But you mentioned the future, obviously. So obviously you're the champion now, and Combat FC 8 was announced for September 13th. And I actually saw today on Instagram that they reposted something with your picture that said September 13th. Is there anything in the works right now? Like, what's going on with your future?
Um, actually didn't see that yet, so I gotta check that out. But but for me, like I Combat FC was a real good promoter. They treated me really well. They ran the event real smooth. No problem fighting with for them again. But just for me personally, September is a little bit too far. So I would rather fight a lot earlier, like maybe towards the end of July, early August, and I might end up taking a fight suited in that in another promotion. But I'm not exactly sure how it's going to play out yet. But that's my mindset going forward. Like I'm trying to get a fight before the September date, and if it works out that I'm able to fight on that card afterwards, then I would definitely do that too.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be awesome. And as for, your next fight, hopefully, obviously at the end of July, like you're talking about, are there any promotions that are kind of like on your radar right now, or it's basically just whoever can give you a good
Yeah,
matchup?
yeah. I don't mind who it is, but I think it might be with probably CFFC. It's what it's looking like, but I'm not exactly sure yet.
Gotcha.
But it might be with them. I might get a title shot with them. That'd be nice. Just collecting belts.
I mean, it definitely helps, especially in like the regional promotions. The more you get, I would have to imagine that rises your stock for like the bigger promotions. I guess my next question, kind of based off that, would be like, what what more do you think you'll need to do to kind of get a shot at one of the bigger promotions, whether it be a second chance at the UFC or a PFL, maybe even like one championship, something like that. But what do you think like you have to accomplish to kind of get back to that point?
Yeah, honestly, just keep doing what I'm doing right now. Just stay active, bang out as much fights as I can, and win in impressive fashion. Back, like, if you talk to me of maybe like 2 years ago, part of me was sort of rushing the process of. So I'm trying to take it one fight at a time. Where I'm like, I'm just focused on the fight, win that. Once that's over with, then we'll see where it goes after that. So just one fight at a time right now. But if I were to say what I expected how I expected to play out, Contender Series is going to be around that September, October time. So if I get another fight in, I might end up going into Contender again around that time, or just end up getting a call up right away to the UFC after another win or two.
So like to kind of go back to that Contender Series appearance that you had, we kind of talked about this a little bit at the press conference, but I wanted to kind of like go deeper into it. So you had that chance of the Contender Series and you lost, and then you lost the fight after that. And we talked a little bit about how in that year off, like you kind of just took some time like for your health, obviously, but then you were able to kind of sharpen your skills a little bit. Just I would imagine that losing in the Contender Series had to be such a blow, and then to lose your next fight after that, like how did you overcome that to obviously get now 2 wins in 2024?
Yeah. Trusting the process, sticking with it. Just another thing too is just that like understanding that I'm as good as I think I am, and I'm as good as other people think I'm. Just fights. The Contender Series fight was like I don't want to call it like a fluke knockout, but it was one of those weird shots. Like he kind of grazed the side of my ear here. I'm looking back and I'm like, how did that even hurt me? It was one of those equilibrium things. But and then the fight after that was actually a title shot with CFFC, which I'm trying to get that one back too. But In that fight, it was going well. It was pretty close. Part of me was kind of hesitant going into the in the fight just because I got caught in the fight before that, so I was being a little more cautious. Um, but when I got I didn't get with a clean punch. It was a headbutt that actually caught me in that fight. So then looking back at it on that fight too. So the day, or actually the same exact day or the night, right after the finish. So after I got finished in that fight, I was thinking like fuck. I didn't know like what caught me. I'm thinking like maybe that could be it for me if I'm just getting caught again. Like my health is my number one priority. So I don't want to like keep just getting caught like that. But then when I watched the replay back, I'm like, oh, it wasn't even a punch. It was just a headbutt. We clashed heads, and he ended up landing some shots to the back of the head after the fight, or after the headbutt. So looking back at that, looking back at how the fight was playing out, I'm like, all right, I still have the skills to do this. So I'll take the time off, take the rest. Once I feel comfortable fighting again, I'm gonna just do pretty much what I'm doing right now. Just bang these fights out, take it one fight at a time, then see where I'm at after each fight.
And so you talked about obviously the Contender Series being around in like that August, September area. Um, I've always been kind of curious about this because like throughout the time I've had this channel, I've been able to interview like a bunch of different fighters, whether it be in the UFC, outside the UFC, but I've never actually asked anyone this. Like, what is that process like to get a shot on the Contender Series or even just at a higher promotion in general? Like, is it just like a call from the manager and then like, you're in if you want it? Or is there like how do you know that you're on their radar?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. More so my managers take care of that. I'm under dominance right now, so with Ali and then my agent Christian. Um, so Ali is the one who got me the Contender Series shot. And one of my training partners. So that's how it played out when I first got the shot of the Contender Series was Chris Wade is one of my training partners, and Ali kind of contacted him. He's also under dominance. Ali contacted him to ask about me to kind of understand like if I'm ready for that shot, and then um, he like heard enough about me, so it was like they ended up getting me the Contender Series fight, and that's pretty much it. So it's not too much to it. It's more so more in the back. Not really me to tell him, hey, I'm ready for a Contender Series. More like my management working that out and seeing how the matchups play out.
Well, I definitely hope you're on.
Hopefully that answers your question. I don't know.
No, yeah, I mean, honestly, I was just curious. Like, I wasn't even really planning to ask that coming in, but I thought about it and I was like, oh, I've never really asked anyone like what that process is like of like getting that call to
Right.
try and step up to the UFC. But
And for me, the like I'm a fan of the sport, so I'm a fan of the UFC, Contender Series, other big promotions too, PFL, Bellator. So I just like watching fights. I just like that's what got me into it initially. So I I wanted to fight on the Contender Series just because watching like I like watching it. I like how the setup is. So I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to like fight in the Contender Series. But now that now that I've been there and done that, I don't really care so much to like go back to. If I do end up on the Contender Series again, like I'll take it. I'll take the fight. But it's I don't really care to go back to it. Like I don't. It's not like I want to, but if it happens, I'll take it. But that was more of like a thing like I wanted to like more of like I guess a bucket list thing, so to speak. So it's like yeah, I competed there. Now I've done that already. I don't have to do it again.
so is the UFC still obviously like the ultimate goal, or is it really like any big promotion that can, maintain you as a pro fighter? Like what is the end goal for you?
Yeah, well, for me, it is a UFC because my goal is not like I mean whoever pays well is nice, but my goal coming into this is not really like I don't do the sport for money. It's more so like I'm trying to prove that I'm the best. I'm trying to be like the champion of the best promotion out there, and the UFC happens to be that promotion right now. When people hear the UFC, that's kind of like they associate MMA with the UFC. They don't really know about Bellator or PFL that much. So my goal is to be like UFC champion. If it happens the next day that PFL happens to be the number one um, MMA organization, then I want to be the PFL champ. So that's kind of where my mindset is at.
Who are some dream fights that you have in the UFC's stacked bantamweight division? I mean, obviously there's a lot of names to choose from, both just like at the top right now and also just legends over time. Like you have guys like Dominic Cruz and stuff like that still around. So like
Yeah,
who would you say you'd want to like in a fantasy world or maybe even just actually getting there someday to fight someone in that division? Who would it be?
yeah. The just know like the top 5 guys. So, and bantamweight, there's a lot. I mean, bantamweight is one of the most stacked divisions, like bantamweight and lightweight. But now I think it's bantamweight more.
I'm glad you think
But
that, by the way, because
you
I've always
mentioned
said
guys like
bantamweight.
not Dominic.
Oh, sorry. You hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah,
All
yes.
right.
No, it's definitely bantamweight.
Yeah, I was gonna say
But
bantamweight, in my opinion, is number one, like right now in the UFC. I think that, even not even in the top 15, just all the way from one down to maybe like even 20 or 30 if you're thinking about it. Like there's so many good fighters there. But
yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
I'll let you
even
continue though.
no, you're right. Even guys who are unranked, they're so good at any point they could be ranked. They can beat a number one contender. But as far as names go, like guys like Corey Sandhagen, guys like Sean O'Malley, like those would be like nice, fun fights, you know. Um, uh, Fights that would suck are like against guys who are just heavy, like, top wrestlers. There's not much of those guys though in the bantamweight division, unless you're talking about maybe Ricky Simone. He's a little bit more of a wrestler, but he definitely not much just grinding wrestlers in the bantamweight division. It's always doesn't matter like who's matched up. It's always going to be a fun fight.
That's very true. And honestly, the last thing I really wanted to ask you before we go here, and I ask this pretty much every time I interview a fighter because I find that the answers are usually pretty interesting. Like, but what in general, you mentioned being a fan first. Is that what basically got you into training MMA?
Yeah, no, that's definitely what it was. What's up, man? Yeah, just kind of watching the sport and then just thinking to myself, if I didn't at least pursue it or at least give it a try, I would probably regret it later in life. So that's just initially what got me in. It wasn't me. Like some guys will tell you they've been in a bunch of street fights, they've been fighting like their whole life. That's not really it for me. I've never really been in any street fights or anything like that. It's just I like the sport, I like to train, and now I do it at a professional level. So that's cool.
Was there any specific fight that kind of got you into it, or was it just like gradually over time?
Um, it it was actually it was the when I first saw the Ultimate Fighter. Actually, that's how it initially started. This was like season 8 or something like that. The Ultimate Fighter. Back when the UFC was on Spike TV, they used to they used, I think my brother happened to turn it on. Then we just happened watching it all day, and then I never really thought about it before. But then when I was watching, I was like, oh, like people like this is like an option. People can do this. They can just fight and I guess make money or something or do it as a job. And from then it was kind of in my head. But then over time, just watching it more and more is what got me into it a little bit more. But that was like the initial start to it.
Yeah, that always seems to be the case. Like I feel like everybody can always point to like whether it be a fight or a set of fights that kind of led them to it. Like one of the reasons why I really love asking this question is one of the first times I asked it was to Rob Font, and he said that he was a pizza delivery guy and he happened to just be delivering to a house. I want to say that had GSP versus BJ Penn on, and that's what kind of got him started. And I've found ever since then that it's always like somewhat of an interesting story to see how different fighters have gotten into the sport, especially in different generations too. So,
Yeah.
but I definitely know a lot of people who got started with tough. But honestly,
Oh,
Ashiek,
yeah.
were
No,
you gonna say something? I don't want to cut you off.
back in the day, it was more people were kind of like almost like barbaric. They just want to start fights for no reason. That's how it kind of started. But now today, it's more. It's not really those barbaric guys that are fighting. It's more so like the nerds and the guys like the aficionados of the sport. They just like watching it. They like training. They like the technical aspect of it, and that's kind of more so where the sport's going towards as far as like who's fighting and stuff.
I mean, that's definitely a good thing. Always like, evolving,
Yeah,
moving forward. I always think it's crazy how in MMA, like the things that worked 5 years ago are like not obsolete, but there's been so much more like since then that has been added on that makes the game so much more fun to watch. And I think that you're obviously one part of that. I hope that someday, hopefully very soon, we get to see you in the UFC, get a second shot at that. But, congrats again on winning that Combat FC title. I'm excited to see your next fight, and thank you for coming on here, man. Is there anything that you want to let MMA fans know about before we go here?
um, no, just follow me on the social medias, the Ashiek Ajim. That's it. Follow my career, and thank you for having me on too. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. I appreciate you for taking the time.
Yes.